Back in 2020, at the start of COVID, I had a couple months in a row where I watched a movie every night. And it was such a great time. And one of my favorite things I did during that time is I went on the Criterion channel and just picked a movie completely randomly. And it just introduced me to so many cool filmmakers I hadn't explored yet. And one of those nights that I picked a movie randomly, I picked Supermarket Woman, which was this bright, colorful looking movie. And I'm like, I'm in the mood for something fun. This looks fun. And little did I know just how much I would adore this movie. It's this beautiful ode to supermarkets. It's about this guy who has a failing local supermarket, and then a mega corporation moves in the same neighborhood and takes all their business. And it's like this fight for what's right and honesty and quality and believing in your ethics and believing in yourself. And the guy is played by Masahika Sagawa. And this woman comes into his life who's gonna whip him into shape and just turn his store around. And that's she's Nobuko Miyamoto, and Nobuko Miyamoto. I think if the pronunciation is bad, I apologize. But they're dynamic, and everything is just so exciting to watch. And it's so cool to see a movie that's led by two middle-aged people. They're in their 40s, I'd say. And I was just I had such a blast. And there's so much genuine empathy and beautiful scenes, and couched inside this goofy, comedic, over-the-top movie. And halfway through watching it, I was like, this movie's really focused on food. What was that other movie I heard of focused on food? And it was Tampopo. And then I looked it up, and I'm like, oh shit, this is the same director as Tampopo, which I hadn't seen at the time. And I was like, I gotta check that out, because I fucking love Supermarket Woman. And the next night I watched Tampopo, and I'm like, oh my god, another amazing movie. Tampopo is this beautiful ramen western. It has a very western structure and music and stuff like that, but it's just about these guys who try to help a woman fix up her ramen shop. And there's so many cool little vignettes and side stories, and the movie gets distracted and follows an extra only to come back to the main story. And that was such a cool structure, and there's so much life and character. And once again, there's everything in one movie. It's a comedy, but it's also a drama and a romance, and it talks about, it's about food, but it's also about everything. It's about life. It's about motherhood, and it's about love and believing in other people and believing in yourself and doing things selflessly. And it was just such a beautiful movie to watch. And I think I liked Supermarket Woman just as much. And Tampopo is by far who I'm talking about, Juzo Itami. I haven't even said his name yet, geez. But Juzo Itami is this incredible director. And Tampopo is by far his most famous. It has a big, huge cult following. And but the more and more I explored his movies, I'm like, all of these are this good, and everything but Tampopo has 1/50th, 1/100th the notoriety or reputation. And I'm just like, people should be watching this guy's whole filmography. And to my luck, the Criterion channel at the time, and I think maybe still, has all of his movies. So I spent the next 2 weeks with very few breaks just binging everything he's ever made. And time again, I'm like, yep, that's great. Yep, that's great. And the two actors from Supermarket Woman, Nobuko Miyamoto is his wife, and Masahika Sagawa, he comes back and acts in a lot of the movies. And it's just such a beautiful thing, because you're recognizing these faces. And I think that's such a fun thing about binging a director's filmography, is you're seeing these trademarks, you're seeing these things they like to focus on, these things they like to talk about and tell stories about. You're seeing this familiar faces of people they like working with. And I think it sounds so obvious, but I think the best way to watch movies and explore movies is be a little random, explore, grab at stuff randomly, and the first thing that really catches your eye, watch that director's other stuff. It sounds obvious, but I feel like we're not often browsing by director. And I think it's usually you'll find more stuff you like if you like one thing by a director. And if you don't, that one movie you like feels all the more special. But yeah, every movie by Juzo Itami was just like hit after hit. The Last Dance, a beautiful movie about a guy who's like sick, but the doctors won't tell him his prognosis, and there's like a really gorgeous like dream sequence in that movie that made me cry. I just started bawling my eyes out, and what else? A Woman in Witness Protection, I think it's called, Woman in Witness Protection. Really great, fun movie about, you know, the what is it? I'm blanking on the Japanese gang, but he made a lot of movies about the Yakuza, you know, and kind of a parody of them and making them look kind of stupid or goofy. And another one he did is The Gentle Art of Japanese Extortion, just kind of exposing how like gangs operate and how businesses are corrupt and the police are corrupt and this and that. He has a lot of interest in corruption, bureaucracy, infidelity. These are themes that run throughout all of his movies, and more times than not, Nobuko Miyamoto is the star of these movies, and she's one of my favorite actresses ever. She's so funny, expressive. She's a chameleon because she's so different in each movie. A Taxing Woman, I think it's called, and Taxing Woman 2 are kind of more like espionage mystery movies where she, you know, is a cop and she like takes down these tax avoider people. And The Funeral was one of his first movies, and it's got a lot of his trademarks, but he's not fully there yet. So there's also like some more Ozu feel to it. It's a very familial vibe like Ozu, and it's a little quieter and a little more still shot, wide shot. Excuse me. And that's great, and I'm just bouncing around. I could just list them all. A Quiet Life is about a person with mental disabilities and his family helping him, and it felt a bit schmaltzy. That's probably my least favorite, but I still think it's a really well-told story. It has some dramatic tonal shifts. It's like pretty light, and then there's some dark material as the movie goes on, and I'm just like, oh. Juzo Itami's a master of putting every tone in the world into his movies, but that one felt the clumsiest, I think. But Tales of a Golden Geisha, I'm sorry for my pronunciation, but that one is regarded as his worst, but like, and I watched it last and I put it on and I still had a blast. I was like, yeah, even like him at his worst still has so much character and so much life, and it's just the most fun movies you could watch, and you just get lost in it. It's so easy to get lost in. Before all of his features, he did a short called Rubber Band Pistol, which was like, I think even like 15 or 20 years before he started his actual feature filmmaking career. And that one was fun too, because it was black and white, and it felt very John Cassavetes. It felt very very just conversational and scrappy, and that was fun to watch even. And I don't know if I forgot one, but my favorites are still Supermarket Woman. Watched it first. I revisited it recently. It's amazing. Tampopo I've watched like 4 times. That one is his most famous for a reason. I think it's his like strangest. It's his most like immediately like gripping and comedic. And Tampopo is still one of his best. Gentle Art of Japanese Extortion, really fun. It's another one where Nobuko Miyamoto is like whipping a bunch of people into shape. And Woman in Witness Protection, that one has some action. It has, I think, a car chase. It's got a lot of really fun stuff going on. The last one is The Last Dance. That one I really love too. But I mean, you can't go wrong with his whole filmography. It's just so good. It's so fun to find a director that you're just like enjoying everything. That's like one of my favorite feelings in filmmaking, when you find one movie and then you're just like another. It's like, when's he gonna miss? And like, he never does. And there's a sort of tragedy to his work, sadly, despite how fun it can be. Him and Nobuko, I think is how it's say. I keep saying it wrong. Are married. They're husband and wife, and they made all these movies together. And I think at one point they were doing more business stuff. They were like supporting themselves other ways, and then eventually they just decided to go like balls to the walls head first into filmmaking, and they just did it together, and she starred and he directed, and it's just a really beautiful relationship, and you could get a feel for how much they love and care about each other through their work. And but the tragedy is in 1997 he released the last movie, and then he was there's no confirmation, but it seems he was killed by the Yakuza. Like somebody had blackmail on him, and the story goes that they made him either jump off a building or they would tell the blackmail, and he had to kill himself, I think. And it's just the darkest ending possible to such a fruitful, beautiful career of joyous filmmaking. But and it's very ironic because a lot of his movies have infidelity and Yakuza and blackmail, and I mean, life imitates art. It seems that very much he was pulling from his own life in those concepts. And I think the Yakuza, or whatever gang it was, maybe there's some other gangs that weren't the big one, but I think they just didn't like him making fun of them and making them look so goofy. And I think that might have been part of it as well. But yeah, his movies, other than Tampopo, are pretty forgotten in history. I mean, of course, there's diehard fans like me who love all his stuff, but you know, I go on Letterboxd or something, or IMDb, and there's only a few hundred ratings on each of the movies, and I'm like, these are freaking phenomenal, like super like dynamic. They feel like big adventures. There's so many sets and characters and scenes, and I'm like, wow, how are people not like diving into these more? And I think Criterion has been releasing a few more of his on an official set, which is cool. They did The Funeral, I know they did, and maybe another. But I just want them to release, Criterion, if you're listening, release a Juzo Itami box set, please, with all 11 of his films. I would die to have that. That would be the best thing in the world to me. And yeah, I just think I explore filmmaking in a curious way, and then like trust your gut. Like if you like a movie, then you'll chase that movie and that genre and that director and the movement. If it's part of like a French New Wave movie or this or that, explore other directors or Iranian filmmaking, like explore that. And I said Iranian, I think it's pronounced Iranian. I'm sorry, sometimes my brain just goes Iranian, and in my last video I was saying Iranian a lot, and I think I got some comments about that. So Iranian, I'm sorry about that. Pronunciation sometimes goes out the window when I'm rambling, and I'm sorry. But yeah, just wanted to give this recommendation. I hope you guys are having a nice day. I love you guys. I love movies. Bye bye.